Robbie Bell has worked in some pretty fancy kitchens around the world. Now, he started his own business as a charcuterer. You know what that is, right? It's a very tasty episode 462 of the award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of marketing morsels. I'm your host, Timbo Reid. You, infinitely more importantly, you're a motivated business owner who's ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. And that's exactly what we do around here, guys. Plus, you can join our free Facebook group to discuss the learnings from each episode with myself and others just like you by searching Small Business Big Marketing Tribe on Facebook. Big episode today. We meet Charkuhturer, Robbie Bell. Charkuhturer what? I hear you ask. Don't worry. I didn't know what one was either. A charcuterer is someone who works with cured meats to make terrines and pâtés. And more importantly, though, Robbie is one of the more passionate business owners I've met in recent times, and his loving approach to building his little empire is quite a breath of fresh air. I think you're really going to enjoy that interview. Another listener who's implemented an idea from this show at a conference they spoke at on Wall Street. Wins over $1,000 worth of prizes in this week's Monster Prize Draw. And I've got some big news about next week's guest. I'm very, very excited about it, or him, I should say, not it, and you should be too. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Righto. Speaking of getting stuck right in, let's meet today's special guest. After completing his apprenticeship as a young chef in England, Robbie Bell spent the first years of his career working for a Michelin-starred chef. Now, that's fancy pants stuff right there. And he's gone on to hone his skills at some pretty fancy establishments around the world. Then, in 2015, not so long ago, seeing a gap in the market for high-end charcuterie, such a hard word to say. I've even got it spelled here phonetically. Still trying to wrap my gear around it. And wanting to put his core skills to use, Robbie and his wife started the City Larder, which now supplies over 180 stockists around Australia with high-end pâtés and terrines. He's also got a podcast. I love it. He's a small business owner with a podcast called Cooking the Books, which is in its third season. Now, you're going to love Robbie, as I did. He's larger than life. He has some solid views on how to build a business that you are going to love and be passionate about, and even stronger views on buying local, something I'm particularly passionate about, even though sometimes it's hard to do, and we'll talk about that later in the episode. I started off by asking Robbie what he's learned about pressure from cooking in some of the world's best kitchens.
Well, I've learned how to deal with it, that's for sure. And I've also learned not to put too much pressure on the guys, because I've also worked in kitchens where there's been that much pressure, you're actually scared to perform. You're scared to do things. You're scared to put food on the pass. And instead of it being a positive, it's a real negative, you know?
I can understand that. The reason I asked that question is I worked in I was a cocktail barman in my uni days at a pretty well-known Melbourne restaurant. I remember walking into the kitchen once, and I won't name the chef, but a big knife went flying past my face. And this guy was known.
I've seen a few things, to be fair, and it's not so much. It's getting less and less, to be honest with you, Tim. It's really getting stamped out with this the new modern approach. Back then was a lot of like hiding, secretive, keeping recipes to themselves. Where now it's a lot more open. People are open about the hours. People are open about mental health. People are open and about a lot of things. So that kind of style is definitely on the decline, which is a fantastic thing.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, and so it should be, because it wasn't a great environment to be in. And I guess the emergence of like all these celebrity cooking programs on TV, that's probably done a fair bit for your profession.
Yeah, it definitely, for sure, it definitely has.
Good and bad.
Good and bad, yeah. That's what I was just thinking. Like, oh yeah, definitely, it's brought a lot of notoriety to chefs and the hard work and whatnot that goes along with that. But then on the same hand, the people that were in it back then were very like in it for anything. You know, it's in your blood. If it's in your blood, it's in your blood. You'll do it for pennies or you'll do it for dollars. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't really matter. You're going to do it. Where now unfortunately, maybe some people are getting in for the fame and the stories and it's not really the right industry for them, really, you know.
Well, there's a generation coming through, and this makes me sound very old, Robbie, but you'll probably agree that when asked what do they want to do, they want to be famous is their number one answer.
Exactly, which is crazy, really, you know.
Yes.
We all know that must bring so much stress when you really think about it.
Correct. So listen, 2015, you've had enough of these crazy kitchens, and you start City Larder, based, I understand, on the feedback you're getting from a Christmas terrine you were making at home. Is that how it all began?
Yeah. So yeah, that's nearly accurate. So. I'm not trying to don't take this the wrong way, but I hadn't had enough. That's the thing. If I would still be in that, I love that industry 100%. Like I really love the industry. I would still be doing that and going along. But my wife, we had a baby. Me and my wife had a baby. So your values change effectively. Do you know what I mean? And I was making, like you said, I was making terrines for the staff at work. And going back a little bit there, I knew I had to have an exit strategy. I knew that I had the baby and I was like, oh, I can't keep doing this. I want to be there for my family. I want to have the relationship. My dad was an engineer and worked away a lot offshore, and I never really had that great relationship because he was away. And I thought, I just don't want that for myself and my son. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I always talk about exit strategies, and people need to really think about them and what they're going to do in the future. But yeah, so at this specific Christmas, I knew I needed to do something, and I was writing business plans. I've been writing business plans all my life. It's like a little hobby for me, you know, real simple ones, from a loaf of bread to a pack of ham, a pack of cheese, divide it up, and how many do I need to sell, and you know, the price. And I've done that since I was a kid.
You are writing business plans since you're a kid.
Since I was a kid, yeah.
Why? Just explain that thinking.
I'd always been into business, and you know what? It got beaten out of me at school, to be honest with you, which is when I look back, yeah. I don't. It's pretty frustrating. I'd done lots of different things. Like, I don't know if you remember them pens that you drew on T-shirts. Do you remember them? And they're like formed up. This is like early 80s, mid 80s. Do you remember them?
I should, because I'm a child of the 80s. What do they do? You wrote on T-shirts with pens.
Yeah, it's like a pen, and you write on the T-shirt, like a plain white T-shirt, and it like forms up and it sticks on the T-shirt. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah. So I used to draw pictures on them, sell it to my mates. Buy a plain white T-shirt for $1, buy a pack of pens for $1, and make, and draw daft things on them, stick men or whatever. And my mates would just buy them. They were rubbish. They were absolutely rubbish, but they would buy them for whatever reason. I don't know. They just needed to spend some on the pocket money. So that would be what I was doing that. And I was just always selling stuff, bits and bobs. And the first business plan I ever remember writing was, where I lived, there was a race course, and I used to see everyone piling into the race course, walking down the street near my nana's house. Walking down, I thought, if I just stood there and sold sandwiches, I might be able to make a few quid. So then I would be like, okay, how much is a loaf of bread? And it'd be like 30 pence. How much is a pack of ham? Break it down, margarine or butter or margarine back in them days, and then work it all out. This is how much it costs. It'd be a pound a sandwich. Well, I need to sell it for £2 to make 50%. And that's what I did. And I've done that, and I just always kept that up forever. So but going back to what you were saying, I was writing these business plans when I knew I needed to leave the restaurants, and I was like, try the cafe. Try to take away these writing these business plans, and I just couldn't get the figures to work. I just couldn't work it out. They just wouldn't. The maths didn't work out, and the scalability didn't work out, and the whole thing. And I was like, what am I going to do? So then I ended up making these terrines for staff, these staff hampers. And sure enough, everyone was like, they were fantastic. You should start doing them and selling them. And I was like, bing. Okay, let's do that. That's what I'm going to do. And that's how we started.
Oh, I love it. Finally, a business plan came through. It was clearly a great thing to do in your growing years to finally land on one that you love. So why did you choose, what are you, a charcuterie? Is that
charcuterie. So charcuterie is like cold meats, basically, right. Like terrines, pate, rillettes, that's and then that's like more of a quick kind of charcuterie. You can make it within a couple of days. And then you've got things like like salamis and prosciuttos and all these kind of things. That all comes under the category of charcuterie.
So that niche that you've chosen, and Robbie, I do love a good niche. That is because that's the type of chef you'd grown up as, or it's just a particular area of chefing you'd love?
Exactly that. So I was, I've come from the classics. Our tagline is cooking the classics, and that's where I've come from. I've come from that old school generation of cooking, and utilising the whole product, buying the whole animal, and using it up, and I love that, and I love that technique. And like I've said many times in many interviews, I love the fact of being paid for the skill. I love that. Like, you buy a secondary product, like a pork shoulder, for instance, you do a process to it, which is the skill, and then you sell it for, you turn it into a premium product. So you turn like a $7 a kilo into a $35 a kilo product.
So you do your business plan. You love being a charcuterist. I guess that's what you're called.
Yeah, I guess you would, yeah.
You've done the business plan on it. What's the next step? Because right now, all your life you've been an employee. I think it's quite interesting, the fact that you've gone, oh, hang on, we're having a kid. I better make life easier and start a small business. There'd be a lot of people listening to this and go, Robbie, stay an employee, much easier.
Honestly, I tell you what, the next 2 years, I can't credit my wife enough. Honestly, I just really can't. Like, you've had a baby, and it's that's a lot of pressure. And then financially, we took such a hit. I was the executive sous chef at Rockpool, which is a really well-paying job, and we went down to earning no money. It was crazy, and I could tell you about some hard times, but I don't want anyone to get any tissues out. Do you know what I mean?
No, mate, tell us. I mean, I think we need to understand. I mean, there's a lot of small business owners listening who understand the hard times. There's others listening who are thinking, "I'll start a small business." Tell us about the hard times. You've gone from.
It got as bad as this is. I've never really said this, and even to friends and everything, I've just kept this totally under my hat. But on this opportunity, and as you're asking, we got money for my son when he was born from friends and family, like $100 here, $100 there. And we spent all that. That's all gone. We don't have a penny of that. It's all, we had to spend the whole lot to keep afloat, to pay for rent. That's how bad it got, when we were, and I'm not joking. It's not poor us or anything. I'm not saying that we're superstars, and I'm sure anyone would do it and go through that. When you're in it, and you commit to something. When I commit to something, I go hard, it'll take a lot to break me. And so we were eating like chicken wings from the chickens that we were eating, but, just rice. It was dire. It was dire times. But, my wife never, not once did she ever question, never. She would say, this is really difficult, we're really struggling to pay rent and this and that and the other. Well, we were struggling to pay rent and whatnot. And I said, it'll be fine. We'll get there. Don't worry. Just let's keep going one step in front of the other. We'll get there. And sure enough, we got there.
At this point, I'm questioning your ability to write a good business plan, Robbie.
Look, this is the thing. We did this on cash flow. We built this on nothing. We've had not a penny investment.
Never borrowed. Outside of your son, you've never borrowed money.
Yeah.
And you've just cash flowed the thing all the way. What gave you the strength? You sound like a fighter to me. But what gave you the strength and the mental strength in particular to go, we're going to get there. This is going to work. Because, I'm going to go, I always default to this, but I'm dyslexic. So, man, I tell you what, that in them 16 years or 15 years, 10 years at school, whatever it is that you do, that was a really hard time, man. That was like, seriously, like, I used to go into lessons and not have a clue what was going on. I didn't even know what university was till I was like 21 or 22. Never even heard of university. Didn't even know what it was. And, and I used to go into classes and they would be talking about stuff. I didn't have a clue what was going on. And I figured it out, I got there and it was incredibly difficult. And, I just feel like I've got... I feel like I'm unbreakable mentally in that sense. I never think about failing. Never, not once have I ever thought about not getting where we want to go. We'll get there. It'll be hard. It's going to be incredibly difficult. We're going to go through some hard times. We're going to have to really struggle and dig down deep and make it work. But ultimately, if it had come to it, I was working. I know I'm jumping around here, but I was working 5 days at Rockpool and building the business for 2 days.
And then I went on to Rockpool were fantastic for letting me do this. Then I went to 4 days at Rockpool and 3 days on the business. Then I went down to 3 and I got down to the last 3 and I tried to go to 2 and they said, no. This is enough. You've been doing this long enough. You either come back on with us or you make the jump. So we made the jump. But I always knew I've got 7 days in the week and we're only putting like 6 into the business. I could always go and get a job. If it really got dire, we could cut back on the business and I would start back work and we didn't owe any money. That sense of not owing any money was really beneficial for me.
You must have come very close because every single dollar you're making, you're putting back into the business, living on chicken wings. Did you come close to sort of looking at your wife and going, look, let's go to the bank and just get a $5,000 loan? Never.
Never. I just didn't. I probably put a lot of people's noses out here, but I really don't. I don't like the banks, to be honest with you.
That's all right.
I really don't.
Many don't.
Yeah, I don't. I just don't like the way that they do it. I don't like that. It is what it is. That's just my view, and I'm sure it works for a hell of a lot of people. But this is the way it's my road. It's my journey and my wife's journey as well. Not just my journey; it's mine and my wife's journey, and we'll do it the way that we want to do it.
So you're eating chicken wings. You're going, this is hard. Wife's going, well, how are we going to pay the rent next month? Tell us about the point where things turned around and you've gone, this is working.
So we got a good accountant. We got invited to go to a really good accountant and go to a meeting with him. And we were starting to see some progress, and we were starting to be able to pay the bills and not waiting with the cash flow and things, and not waiting for us to get our bills in to then pay the bills. Obviously that's a pretty simple thing, but that's when we could start going, okay, we've got $1,000 in the bank, so we can pay our bills and then we can wait for our money to come in. That was then we were starting to go, okay, we can see some progression here. And obviously we were always buying equipment, so we were making a bit of money and then we buy a piece of equipment. We'd make a bit of money, so we always knew we were making money. It's just we couldn't get to the money because we needed to build the business. So I knew and obviously we had zero and we could see all the numbers and the margins, and it was always there, but it wasn't growing fast enough. But it couldn't because we didn't have the equipment. Do you know what I mean? It was just like I could see that we were on the right trajectory and it was working. It was just a matter of time. That's what it was.
I'm always interested, Robbie, to know where names come from. City Larder, how'd you come up with that?
So the name larder is obviously, I think it's English. Is it English? It's, the larder would be the cold area in the kitchens, and there'd be maybe a slab of marble back in the day that you would keep your meat on in England before refrigeration and things. And then in the kitchen, like in big kitchens, you'd have the larder section, which would be the cold section, which is terrines were made on. And then obviously the city, we were in the city, and it was like, I wanted it to have a bit of a feel of like the country, a little bit of feel of like, like an old French farmhouse country feel with the larder, but then modern with the city. That was a thought process, basically.
Sounds like you nailed it. So the business today is you're a wholesaler to about 200 restaurants and cafes and food stalls around Australia. And
that's correct.
You've got a shop front is it Ivanhoe?
We had to shut the shop front because we did the maths and it wasn't working. So we've now actually turned that into a portioning and packaging room, because the wholesale business, when we took on the shop, we needed the shop front to get the revenue and the cash flow, instant cash, isn't it? We needed that to keep it going. But then once we got the shop, we really started rocketing and we really started making some good, not money, but getting good revenue. So we just made the decision that this wasn't going to work with the shop front. So we closed the shop front, turned that into a packaging room to keep it separate. So we've got like a raw room, a cooked room, and a packaging room, and then that makes it so we can get HACCP and things.
How many staff you got? 9. How's that going? Every small business owner I ever speak to, it's like I mention people, they go, "Oh, really? What else you got?"
No, I haven't got a bad word to say about any of them. I love all of them. They're all fantastic.
I reckon you'd be a pretty good boss.
And say that again, sorry?
I reckon you'd be a pretty good boss.
Yeah, look, I believe that I work for them, and I truly believe that. I genuinely believe that. I want to give them every opportunity that they want, We've got a lad starting with us, and the kitchen's closed Saturday, Sunday. I said, if you want to come in and start your own business and use the kitchen on a Saturday and Sunday, you come and start your own business. Do you know what I mean? I want to give people that opportunity. Some people want to work, it's important for them to be away early and get away at the weekend. They're really into that. You know, they've got other interests. So, you know, I don't feel like, if someone wants to get out and this isn't their life and soul, it's just a job, I understand that as well. Then we've got people who are a bit more want to be part of the business and grow with the business. That's also fine. It's whatever that person wants.
Mate, I love that. I love the fact that I guess you're doing what Rockpool did to you, which is allowing you to create something of your own. We had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, Amanda Stevens, who I think, it wasn't her quote, but she reminded me of the quote, what happens if I train my staff and they leave? And I think the other side of that quote is, what if you don't train your staff and they stay? That's great. I've never thought of it that way. That's exactly that. Yeah, it's a really smart way of looking at it. I won't take no claim for that, but it is. I love business owners who put so much effort. And boy, you're saying you feel like you work for your staff. I mean, that's an interesting approach. One thing I've noticed just looking at the City Larder brand, Robbie, is that you attach a lot of importance to the visual branding, the logo, beautiful photography, beautiful web design. How important is this to you?
No, it's massive. We actually have 2 or 3 photographers that work for us at different styles as well. So, the branding's really important. I think. Is that because you've grown up Is that because you've grown up in restaurants that are beautifully presented and you've always been into the aesthetic, or is it something else there? No, definitely. We're definitely trying to bring the restaurant mentality to a wholesale business. There's no two ways about that. That is exactly what we're doing. With the service, we try and give the service to our customers that you would get in a restaurant, you know what I mean? And that goes right away along the board. So I guess, terrines and pate effectively have a tendency, maybe if you just say aren't that interesting. So we need the visual as well, and video. We're quite big into video. We've had a few of them. And we're just trying to bring it into the modern day, It's an old-fashioned style that people are definitely are interested in, and we're just trying to modernise it and brand it up, basically.
Oh, that's really interesting. So what you said then is you're bringing the 5-star restaurant service mentality to a wholesale business. What's that look like? Give me like 2 or 3 things that you see delivered in a fancy restaurant that you've now brought to wholesale.
Okay, so for instance, this week, let's say, last week, because the deliveries haven't gone out this week, but last week, it's pre-Easter, mega time of year for us, really big. It's the second busiest. After Christmas, it's the busiest. This is the busiest time of year for us. And so we know the delivery driver who drives the van is going to be under the pump. Everyone's instead of getting 1 or 2 boxes, they're getting 3 or 4. So, they have to make many runs to the shop and this, that, the other. So instead of just leaving it at that, which a lot of wholesale business do, not bagging them, but what they'll do is just like, it'll come when it comes, no communication. Beck emails everyone or calls everyone and says, we've got a very busy run this week. Just to let you know, we are coming, but it might be running half an hour late. And just communicate with them that's a situation, So it's not like, well, the delivery's always here at 2:00. It's not here. It's 2:30. It's 2:45. It's not here. Did I put the order in? And then they've got to start checking their diary. Did we put that order in? And then 3:00 it rocks up. They're like, oh no, yeah, that's all good. Or they've got to make the phone call. You're wasting their time. Why are you wasting their time? They did put the order in. You just let them know that you have got the order, and we are going to deliver, but we are going to be running late. And that's the same as if you're in a restaurant. If the kitchen's getting slammed, and you've ordered a steak or a bowl of pasta or whatever it might be in a restaurant, the chef might go to the waiter, just let everyone know that we're getting slogged a little bit. We've had 2 tables come in, 2 big tables, and just let them know the food is coming, but there's a little bit of a delay. Ask them if they want another drink. That might be something, and that's good service, and that's what we do. They're the kind of things that we're prepared to do.
I love that, mate. Communication. I used to do
communication. It's huge. It's key.
It is absolutely key because people get it. People understand that sometimes things go wrong, things get delayed, and I think there's sometimes businesses hide behind that and are too scared to make the phone call or tap the customer on the shoulder and go, your delivery's been put back a bit. But we're forgiving creatures at the end of the day, most of the time.
Absolutely. So that's the front of the house, and then the back of the house. So, for instance, we were making a black pudding, and it was on a guy's menu, and and he committed for us to be on the menu, and we got it wrong twice, and I was like, this isn't working, this isn't what's, it's not happening. We haven't got the time to spend on it properly. It was like getting pushed to one side. We weren't selling enough to make like a real line to make it really work. So we were half-assing it, and that's what we were doing. So I made the decision, this isn't good enough. Let's just stop doing that line. We're not doing a very good job. We're not doing the job good enough for our reputation, and we're letting people down. So I then found another supplier for him and said, look, we can't do it, but check these guys out. These guys make a good black pudding. Start using them, and this, that, the other. So that's another area of, trying to give good service like you would get in a restaurant.
Has that come back and rewarded you, that saying you can't
Absolutely.
do something? Yeah.
It's relationships is a key. It's a key thing, Like, for instance, two people's fridges went down last week. Two of our customers, would you believe it? And it's happened to me about a year ago, where I cut $3,000 worth of stock and I put it in the fridge. We went away for the weekend, come back, the fridge was at 30 degrees. The compressor had gone. So I had to throw all that stock away. It's heartbreaking. I mean, putting that in the garbage was just absolutely heartbreaking. Since we put things in place where we have sensors in all the fridges and we get notifications, so that won't happen again. But this has happened to these people. They had to put a reorder off us. I guess it's like when you fill your car up with diesel, you pay for the diesel, then you empty it, you got to pay to get it emptied, and then you've got to refill it with petrol, and you've got to pay for that petrol again. It's like, oh my goodness. So they've got to rebuy all that stock. So we just give them a little discount and say, look, we're really sorry about your fridge going down. There's a little discount. I know it's not much, but at least it's a little bit of a help to pay for the fridge to get fixed. It costs us nothing, Like, what's it cost us? $50, $100? Like, it doesn't matter. They're having such a bad time, and we want to be there to support them, because if you support them in the hard times, they'll support you in the good times,
Yep. Totally agree. And the whole concept of high perceived value to your client at a low cost to you, the business owner, is a great strategy and mindset to have.
Exactly that.
I have to go back a couple of minutes, Robbie. Black pudding, mate. Can you just give me some insight into why we need black pudding in the world?
Well, first of all, it's absolutely delicious. We'll start with that. And secondly, it's incredibly healthy. It's super healthy.
So is an apple.
Yeah, but it is what it is. It's something that I love. Also, it's very why waste it? The animal's died for you and give up its life for you. Why just let that perfectly good product just pour down the drain? Why do that when we can use it?
And hello to all your vegetarian and vegan listeners out there. Robbie, most effective marketing that you do for City Larder, what is it in terms of attracting new customers? Because you're a B2B business at the end of the day, aren't you?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, for sure. So there's two that I'd like to say. One is working on word of mouth, and like actually working on that, doing things that help promote people to spread your word, not just delivering to them and hoping, but making wow factors, going that extra mile. Really never missing deliveries, always being reliable, and making sure that they talk, because obviously they all talk amongst each other, retailers. Mm-hmm. So that's one area I would definitely say as a marketing tool we work on, trying to get people to talk about us. And then I think the next one it's pretty simple, to be honest, and that's Facebook and Instagram marketing, targeted markets. And that's probably the second biggest one.
Paid advertising?
Paid.
Okay. Do you do that yourself?
Yeah, we do that ourselves. Yeah, we do it. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, boosted posts on Facebook.
Not boosted, targeted. Not
targeted
boosted.
Posts on Facebook help you attract new customers. So, what are you doing? You're saying there's a lot of restaurant, cafe owners on Facebook. I would have thought Instagram is why I'm questioning that.
Yeah, Instagram as well. Yeah,
okay.
For sure. Instagram also for sure. Probably even about the same. Yeah, okay. Because we can target. Because in the wholesale business, also people are looking for the next new thing. Maybe something different, a point of different. Especially in the market that we're at, they're trying to look for something unique that Coles or Woolworths haven't got, So they're always searching for them kind of products. So if we can get out there and be in the market for owners and buyers for these kind of places and promote them kind of things, like for instance, we'll promote like farmers markets. For instance, we do farmers markets, but part of our when you do you choose your categories that you want to target, we will go farmers markets, because we know a lot of these small independent grocers, butchers, buyers for these kind of places go to farmers markets and look for new products in farmers markets, which we do, and we've had plenty of business through that. So therefore, we just use social media in that target.
You mentioned Coles and Woolworths, the big daddies of all the retail FMCG trade. Are you tempted to? Is your wish that you get the big contract, or do you want to stay?
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Really?
I dislike them as much as the banks.
Wow. Hello to all.
They're not for me.
Okay.
The only thing I'll buy from them is bleach. Probably about it, really. The rest I wouldn't buy it. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with their philosophy, and I think the way that they try and brand it without delivering, the meat's terrible, the way they care for the people is terrible. I think the automation is not good for our industry, and I think it's technology. You can fight technology all you want, and you're going to come off second best. There's no two ways about that. But I would rather my dollar go to the small independent than the big corporations, personally.
Love it. You probably can get bleach outside of those places anyway. So You're
probably right.
You're a man of principles, clearly.
Yeah, I do. I think so. Yeah, I do. I just think they've put so many people. Look, going back to England, and you look at them. They've put the milkman out of business. What happened to the milkman? He's gone because of them. The news agents. They all sell all the papers and that in England. And that, so they're all going out of business. And they're putting everyone out of business. Then the people, and I'm not. People might stop getting on your high horse or whatever. But then the people will say, there's all the shops have shut down in the high street. It's not like it used to be. It's like, yeah, because you're spending all your money in a one-stop shop, so all the independents can't do that.
Listen,
if you think about how many employees it takes to run a Coles and how much revenue they take, as opposed to how many employees a small independent takes and how many employees that they take, it's much better for the economy to shop at the small thing. It might cost you a little bit more, but they're employing part-timers and it's a lot better, That's my view.
I totally agree with you. The last bit, it might cost you a little bit more. I actually think it costs you a lot more, and I'll probably stir the hornet's nest here. I'm all for shopping with the small guy. I've been doing a podcast for the small guy for 10 years. I love supporting them. If you add up the savings of not going to the small guy over the course of a year, I would argue it's probably in the thousands of dollars. If you go to the little hardware store, if you go to the little bakery, the little bread guy, the little shar-ku-tuh-ree, the little everything, it's going to cost you a whole lot more. There's great joy in it. There's great satisfaction in it. I just hope that we get to the day when the majority of the population, and not just those on big incomes, we can all go to the small guy. That would be awesome when we put the big guy out of business. That's my dream. I would love that for sure. But you know what? Just going off that a little bit. I also believe you're probably correct about that. It is more expensive. But on the same hand, if it wasn't for the small guys, we wouldn't have had the opportunity. I probably wouldn't have had this opportunity in England, to be fair, because I really feel like the small guys, the IGAs, the Leos, the independent butchers, the Bouchers, and these kind of people in Melbourne, they've given us the opportunity, and now we've got 9 staff, and what's that done? And people can't afford to do it if they don't want to be wearing the top of the range Air Max, if they don't want to have the top of the range plasma LCD LED BWC TV. Do you know what I mean? If you do want that, and you're more interested in your community, and you're more interested in what you're putting into your body as opposed to what you're watching on the how the shoes you're wearing or whatever it might be, well then I think it's better for the community, in my view. That's what that's how I shop and the way I look at things. I'm just writing that down, mate. Be more interested in your community, not your shoes. I love that, and there's an aha in a ha-ha, and I think you've nailed it there. Robbie, just want to finish, mate, because I am talking to a fellow podcaster. You've been podcasting. You got about 30 or 40 episodes under your belt of Cooking the Books podcast. Why did you start that? A few reasons. Again, on my high horse, I've got loads of people like, this guy's always whinging on, but I'm pretty positive. But
I feel like there's a few reasons. One, I'm not in the kitchen as much, so I don't have that connection with the chefs. And I love that industry, the hospitality and the restaurant industry. I love it. I just absolutely love it. So I didn't have that connection. I wasn't in communication with people like I used to be. I used to be really in it. So that was one reason. I wanted to keep them networks and them communication alive, I guess, them conversations alive. That was one reason. The other reason was brand recognition. I wanted our brand to be recognized with some of the best chefs in the world and let them know that I'd put a lot of effort into creating these relationships. And that's our background. And I wanted to give confirmation that it wasn't just all talk, that I have worked with these guys and I have done that. So it was a bit of brand recognition and connection in that sense. And the third reason is I feel like some of the big magazines and papers have their favorites. And if you're the in thing and you're the cool thing at the time, well then you'll be in the paper a lot, or you'll be in the magazines a lot. And it's only the top tier that they kind of get involved in, really, and then the odd up and comers. And I feel like the guys who are in there doing it every day, grafting, don't really all get the recognition. And I would like to give them a platform to tell their story.
Oh, mate, that is brilliant. Because I got to say, again, back to the mass media, like the big magazines and the big TV stations, you just see the same people rolled out time and time again. And I think it's boring. And it
is definitely boring.
And I'm with you. I take a little bit of pride in the fact on this show, I have people as guests that many listeners have never heard of, and they now have, like you, mate. You're smashing it. They now, hopefully I can give you just a little bit more exposure because you're doing awesome things. But,
exactly.
The Vogue Livings of the world, or whatever, Vogue Entertaining, they might not, profile Robbie just yet. They will now, mate. You've been on the show, but Oh, that's awesome. What has podcasting done specifically for City Larder?
I think we're going back to community. We're going back, I think it's made our community a lot stronger. I know people say it all the time, I was listening to this, or people are getting inspiration, our community, because a lot of our stockists listen to it, and we've had a lot of our stockists on as well. They listen to it and they feel they're part of a community. We're all part of a bigger thing, and I think that's basically it. We're just trying to create a bit of a community, and we can all bounce off each other, take inspiration from one another, believe that you're not the only one in the trenches, having a hard time or even a good time, and maybe get a few tips along the way. He does this, he does that, and I like to just have that platform, really. I enjoy that.
Love it. What a simple way podcasting is to give back to someone. For you to say to a supplier or a colleague in the industry, hey, can I interview you? That's just an awesome gift.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel great. You know what? I'll be honest. It's the same as this. I'll come off this and I'll have like endorphins just pouring out of me. It'll be dripping from the ceilings, as you'd say. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I'll change the tagline. Endorphins dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Idea.
You come out high, feeling great, and something like this can change your week.
Good on Seriously. You, mate. I love that. Speaking of week and looking into the future, what can we expect in a year's time from City Larder? Where are you going to be?
Well, I use the power of visualization heaps. I mean, I use it on a day-to-day basis, and the future's looking good for us in my view. And there's a lot of channels that we want to get into. We keep growing. We keep growing the charcuterie, and I truly believe that. Unfortunately, the way the wage cost is in Australia, the way the wage cost is and the margins in the restaurants is very low. It's quite difficult to make a strong dollar, should I say, consistently. And I just think there's a big gap in the market for ready to go B2B food items. Like back in the day, that people used to go buy a whole animal and then they would break it down themselves and sell each part. Then the butcher come on board and he started breaking down each part and selling it to each restaurant as they wanted it. And I think the next part of the evolution is for restaurants to start buying ready to go cooked duck breast, cooked pork bellies, these kind of things, and that's the market that we're going after.
Love it, buddy. Robbie, I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. You reckon you're going to race off with endorphins? I'll be doing the same, mate. So there's been a bit of a love-in from two blokes who didn't know each other half an hour ago.
That's a great contract when both people leave happy. We know we've done a good thing.
I agree. And to everyone else, well, I was going to send all listeners to city-larder.com. I mean, go and visit it. But if you're a restaurateur or cafe owner or you've got a stall at a farmer's market, please contact Robbie and just make a really big order. Robbie, love your work, mate. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for the opportunity. Like real quick, just before I go on, I know time's precious, but I started off listening to you about 5 years. I think it was about 5 years ago. I briefly mentioned it in the past about the guys that were putting the bins away for $1. And I visualised being on this podcast. I visualised speaking to you. Like I visualised going on Joe Rogan's, and I visualised going on Gary V's. I visualised going on yours, and today it happened. And this is just the first step in many of our path to get to the where we want to get to.
Love your work, Robbie. Big hug, mate. Big man hug.
Take it easy. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Well, there you go. Charkuhturer Robbie Bell. What an awesome bloke. Although I reckon he needs to set his goals a little higher beyond just wanting to be on this podcast. You can check out all City Larder have to offer at city-larder.com. Plus, Robbie's kindly donated some vouchers for the Monster Prize Draw. Here's what grabbed my attention from that chat with Robbie. Attention grabber number 1. I love the fact that Robbie works for his staff, even to the point that he's helping one of his young blokes start his own business, which clearly he's paying it forward given one of Robbie's past employers allowed him to start his own business while working for him. So I think it's awesome. So I guess it raises the question, what are you doing for your staff to help them grow? You know, what's that famous saying? I think Amanda Stevens shared it on a recent episode. What happens if you train your staff and they go? But more importantly, what if you don't train your staff and they stay? So kind of raises the question, what are you doing for your staff? How are you rewarding them? It's hard to get good people. It's even harder to keep them. Be as good as you can to your staff because good ones are hard to get and they can be easy to lose. You know that. You know that much as I do. Attention grabber number 2. I love the fact that Robbie's bringing a 5-star restaurant mentality to a wholesale business. It's such a point of difference. You know, generally, I'm guessing a lot of wholesale businesses, it's just kind of B2B, you know, marketing, pretty grey and boring. Or some business owners think that's what B2B should be. I totally disagree with that, and it's lovely that Robbie is kind of bringing that 5-star mentality to wholesale. Attention grabber number 3. I love his view that we should be more interested in supporting our local community than in buying the next pair of expensive shoes. Like I said, that's tough. It's expensive to buy locally. I go to the farmer's market every Sunday. It costs me hundreds of bucks. I'm a bit of a sucker though. I do love a bit of homemade gnocchi, you know, a bit of organic vegan pineapple. I know, all pineapple's vegan, you know what I mean. Anyway, buy locally. Let's do that as much as we can. That's what grabbed my attention. Whatever grabbed yours, be sure to block out some time in that busy diary and implement it.
Come on down. It's Timbo's Monster Prize Draw.
Oh, yes. You know what that means. It's time to reward another motivated listener for taking some swift, inspired, motivated marketing action as a result of listening to this show, of course. And today's winner is Trish Ridge of the Chartist. Well done to you, Trish. What have you got to say? And once you've said it, I'll give you lots of prizes. Trish says, hey, Timbo, I've been binge casting. I love that. Your pod. Oh, there's a bit of tech talk there. I've been binge casting your pod and scooping up bucket loads of marketing GOLD. I've implemented so many of your tips, but one that really struck gold for us was possibly a throwaway line you made at the end of episode 434 with Brendan Tarazzi. Brendan has multiple small lifestyle businesses and therefore many websites. Our business has evolved over 20 years, and like Brendan, we have multiple websites all revolving around trading the stock market. My husband and business partner, geez, how's that going, Trish? Husband and business partner. Could be tough, but it sounds like going pretty well. Was invited to talk at a conference on Wall Street last week. Love that. And his topic didn't relate to our main website, which is thechartist.com.au. We were trying to work out how we could sign off his presentation, which email address should he use. Then, boom, she says, you told Brendan he should set up brendantarazzi.com so people could contact him easily. Quick as a flash, I built NickRadge, RADGE.com, a personal brand website for my hubby Nick, and set up a new email address with that website. We returned from New York 2 days ago and have been answering messages from conference delegates wanting Nick to design unique trading strategies for them. They would never have learnt about that service via our main website. We can't thank you enough, Timbo, for this fabulous tip. Regards, Trish. Well, Trish, it just continues to rain gold over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ, because for you implementing that simple idea, taking action, you get some prizes. You get a full range of Liar's non-alcoholic spirits. That's valued at over $500. A $50 Sendle voucher, a $100 Tradies Undies voucher, $50 voucher to buy some Santa-enabled PJs, $75 City Larder voucher, My DNA test kit, $99, Snotty Noses voucher, $75, on-the-go merchandise voucher, $75, plus, here's the magic, promotion on this show, which I've just given you, and a backlink in the show notes, which the big G, Google, love. Now, to all you other envious listeners out there, I hope you are. Like, she won a lot of prizes then and has taken some swift marketing action. If you have done the same, if you've listened to this show, implemented an idea, can you please email me and tell me about that? 100 words or less, tim@timreid.com.au. If I read it on air, you win a bag load. There's just no downside. That brings us almost to the end of episode 462. A reminder that you'll find plenty more where this came from, plus my entire archive is over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Next week, you and I are going to catch up with serial entrepreneur Carl Hartman, who seems to have the Midas touch, I'd have to say, when launching businesses. And he's going to share his top 5 tips for scaling any business. If you're getting value from this episode or from this podcast, please let other business owners know about it. It was presented by me, Timbo Reid. Thanks a million for tuning in. Now get out there and take action.